It is week 5 of the college football season. We got 6 picks on the way, 3 spreads, 2 totals, and 1 player prop to wrap up the video. If you're new to calling our shot, my name's Austin, joined by Logan. Let's recap how we did last week. Although, Logan, I wish I could speed past it because I stunk up the joint after a 3-0 week. The week prior, 0-3. Some bad beats in there, but UConn plus 21.5 was not a bad beat. That team sucks. Memphis, Missouri under 51.5 had a chance at the end of that one, but didn't get through. Troy minus 3.5 was the worst beat of the weekend. They were up 10, were running the football into the end zone to go up 17, and they fumbled it out of the back of the end zone, gave it to the other team. They went down and naturally win by 3. Brutal. But Logan, you delivered a 2-1 week. You're quietly on a 5-1 run, on a pretty good run here. Let's see if you can continue that this week. But before I dive into it, I want to say congratulations and welcome to sports betting for our Kentucky people out there. If you are in Kentucky, you have a bunch of different sportsbook offers. You're 100% new to a lot of sportsbooks. We have a ton of the great bonus offers that you can take advantage of, all down below in the description. Go take advantage of them. It helps if you support the channel using our links. All details down below for FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, Bet365, all those details down below. But like I said, Logan, you're on a 5-1 run. I got to put myself in timeout since I stunk last week. I can't be worse than last week, but I got to go timeout. I'm going second. You got the first pick up. You're up first. Where are you going today?
Yeah, I do need better from you, Austin. I am challenging you to not reverse sweep this week. I feel good about your picks. But as far as my picks this week, I'm going to an ACC battle, and I'm taking Syracuse. Plus 6.5 is my first pick. Minus 105 odds on BetMGM, currently your best value for this underdog spread. If you look at in their all-time series between these two teams, the Syracuse Orange, only 2-9 versus Clemson, with Clemson beating Syracuse in 5 straight contests. Though these games have been pretty close, 3 of those games were decided by just 6 points or fewer. This is one of those games that I think is going to. This is one of those games that Syracuse definitely circled on their schedule. And look at what Clemson's coming off. Clemson's coming off a tough, physical, and emotional overtime loss to FSU last week. And Syracuse sort of had a game to tune up against Army, where they sort of dominated late in that game. So you got 2 teams in opposite directions, and I really didn't like what I saw from Clemson last week, in the way that they lost in overtime. That was one of those games that I think they should have, snatched it from FSU, and they just couldn't do it. Look at Syracuse. They have a really sneaky good defense. 4th in scoring defense. They should be able to hold their own against an inconsistent Clemson offense with Cade Klubnik. I mean, Klubnik he doesn't look like the typical Clemson system quarterback. He's inaccurate. He doesn't make the best reads. I think Syracuse defense definitely will have a game plan for him. Offensively, though, Syracuse generating 507.8 yards per game, balanced run and air attack. They're 9th in total yards in the FBS. This is a Syracuse offense that actually should be able to, move the ball up and down on Clemson, and led by senior quarterback Garrett Schrader. We all know him. If you've been following college football, he's definitely a familiar name. He is one of those dual threat quarterbacks. He can beat you on the air or through the air, and he can also beat you on the ground. 8.1 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns rushing on the ground. Posted his 3rd best offensive grade last season versus Clemson. So he's seen the schemes that Clemson's probably going to throw at him, and he's done pretty well. And we also look at, last point of note, Clemson isn't entering this game fully healthy. Wide receiver Cole Turner, offensive lineman Walker Parks, defensive lineman Vic Burley, all supposed to be out of this game. So again, Clemson, a tough battle last week. Are they going to be able to, they're definitely going to have a road test in the Carrier Dome in this one. I'm taking Syracuse with the points. I think they could pull the upset outright, but in this one, I do want the points to be sure, and I want those in my back pocket. But Austin, where are you going for your first pick?
Yeah, Logan, I really like the pick. I'm going to go to a much different game, a 3:30 p.m. start, and I'm going to the Texas Tech Red Raiders, minus 8.5 as they're at home taking on Houston. And when you look at this line, it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, which it did to me, because you got a 1-3 Texas Tech team laying over a touchdown against Houston, which is very odd. And normally, if it was their starting QB out there, I'd be like, all right, it makes sense. But their starting QB, Tyler Show, I believe, is out. He got, I believe, shin surgery. He's out, I believe, for the season. And they got Baron Morton, I believe, starting for him. He is a sophomore. He redshirted his first year. So he's been in the system for about 3 years. But last week against West Virginia, when Tyler got injured, he looked lost out there. He went 13 for 37, completing just 35% of his passes. Look, I could probably go out there and do that, just taking some checkdowns. He stunk, but I think at home I expect him to be a little bit better, and so does the line indicate that. The Texas Tech, this team, they haven't looked great this year. No way around that. Their best game, honestly, this season was against Oregon. They did lose by 8 in that game, but obviously Oregon, a big-time program, they competed with them, and I think they're going to compete and win this game pretty handily against Houston. And we'll look at who Houston's going to trot in there with. It's going to be the former Texas Tech Red Raiders QB, Donovan Smith. He's obviously as a frequent, they've seen him before. It's a team that knows how he plays. And I just think in this game, we see the Cougars kind of come back down to earth. This is a team that's 2-2. They're not great. Their only road game this season was a 2-point loss to Rice. Rice isn't that great. They don't have a lot of talent on their program. I think Texas Tech's going to come out here and show up. They've lost, obviously, 1-3 back at home in this game. I think they play much better than they have so far this season. Maybe we can see them get back to how they played in that game against Oregon, a very talented roster. They have much more talent than Houston, in my opinion. And I think that Morton will look a lot better at home. They should be able to score 30, 35 points against a bad Houston defense. And I really don't have any faith in Donovan Smith being able to keep up with them. So, look, I know it's a weird one. Texas Tech Red Raiders probably wasn't on your bingo card with who I was going to pick this weekend, but I really do like them. -8.5. I think they win by 2 or more touchdowns. I'll roll with them at home. But, Logan, what's your second pick going to be?
Yeah, I'm going to a total for my second pick. I'm taking Louisiana and Minnesota under 48.5 total points. -110 odds on BetMGM, currently your best value there. Now, this is a noon start time, so I always like picking noon games for start times. They don't have the electricity of like a 7 p.m. kickoff time. But we look at the Gophers. They badly need a bounce back, in their homecoming game after blowing a 21-point fourth quarter lead last week, losing 37-34 overtime against Northwestern. That was one of those shocking scores. Like, if you see Northwestern in the win column in a Big Ten game, woof. I mean, yeah, the Minnesota definitely, they need to bounce back. Just first off, that's what I had to note. This is the only Power Conference matchup. This is the only Power 5 conference matchup for the Raging Cajuns as well. So this is going to be a big test for them. Can they hang with a Big Ten team? The Raging Cajuns, Louisiana, obviously, have 18 sacks in 4 games, tied for the most in the FBS. Also, the Minnesota have already given up 5 sacks this year. So the Minnesota's offensive line, I don't think is as great as it is. And we've kind of seen that with the offensive inconsistencies here. Minnesota's true freshman running back, Darius Taylor, also suffered an injury late in that game against Northwestern. I think he's going to be in this one questionable, and he leads the conference in rushing yards. So obviously, if Minnesota is missing one of their top backs, this offense is going to be hampered a little bit. And Minnesota, they're not a good offense anyway, 118th in scoring offense. So does Louisiana need to go out and have a perfect shutout type game? No, they don't, because Minnesota just has not shown me enough that they're consistently scoring and turning those red zone trips into touchdowns. Look at Louisiana. They also mix up their defensive schemes, allowing 27.5 points per game. And the Gophers are outside the top 110 in the nation in passing categories. This isn't a passing offense that's really going to do much damage. And that's what you worry about when you pick an under. You can't have those explosive 30, 40-yard plays down the field. And that's just not really the name of the game for Minnesota. Minnesota wants to run the ball. Louisiana, 44th in rushing yards allowed, so they should be able to compete there defensively. We look at Louisiana. They're 22nd in scoring, but their competition definitely was, it was against inferior competition. Let's put it that way. Starting quarterback Ben Woolridge still out with an injury. Freshman quarterback replacement. He's been capable as a fill-in role, but he has not seen a Big Ten defense, and that kind of worries me. If you're facing a big Power 5 conference defense, they're definitely going to be able to scheme for him, and I think PJ Fleck is going to have that Minnesota defense swarming for sure. With all the running and chew clock in this game, I think that's really going to be the deciding factor in this one. 48.5, that just seems like way too many points for these two teams. And I think the under is the clear way to go in this one. But Austin, where are you going for your second pick?
Yeah, Logan, you took an under, and I'm going to match it. I'm going to take an under as well and go to a game that probably a lot of people probably won't be watching, but I really do think this is going to be a good game. It's going to be South Alabama, who's Logan talked about a couple weeks ago, and James Madison. I'm taking the under in their game, under 49.5 points, -110 on FanDuel. And honestly, it's a big game here. Now, South Alabama comes in here, I believe 2-2, but JMU has some, quietly some aspirations here. They're 4-0, trying to get a big win. South Alabama's a legit squad. We've talked with them before. Logan backed them a couple weeks ago against Oklahoma State. They were on the road, and they won that game decisively despite being 7-8 point underdogs, and that's a good team. But when I look at both these two programs and I look at both of what they want to do, both teams want to run the football. We've talked about JMU in the past. When they face teams that want to run the football, that's when they want to target unders. We took their under 2 weeks ago. It was a 16-14 game sweat-free. And we look at USA, South Alabama, they love to run the football this season. 147 rush attempts compared to just 100 pass attempts. They want to run the football, set up the play action pass, and that's when they throw the ball. But we've seen, and we've talked about JMU, they allow the fewest rushing yards per attempt at just 1.2 per attempt. This is a team that gets you into those second and longs, third and longs, and this is also a South Alabama defense that also is decent against the run, 3.4 yards per carry. That's 44th lowest in the college football. So look, JMU, they don't really want to throw the football. They don't trust their quarterback a ton. I think they want to, just similar to USA, they want to run the football as well. This is two teams that don't want to have their QBs throwing it 35, 40 times a week. And I don't think this game will be necessarily a way or where one team blows out the other and we see another team trying to play catch up, having those quick scoring drives. I think this is a close game. The spread indicates that. It's like a 3.5 point spread. I think it's a grinded out type game. And we saw, I think people are going to overreact. You talk about when I took the JMU under 2 weeks ago. The week prior to that, JMU was in a super high scoring game. And I said, hey, I think it's going to come down to earth. I think people are going to look at JMU, see last week's game, 45-38, a crazy high scoring game, 83 combined points. But look at that game. You saw not only were there 5 touchdowns of 50 yards or longer. Obviously, if you're getting those long touchdowns, you're going to really have a tough time catching an under when you're seeing guys score in 2-minute drives 7 points. But also in that game, 8. Yes, 8 combined turnovers. Look, when there are 8 turnovers, unless they're at the end of a drive and you've milked 6 minutes off the clock, you're normally setting up the other team with great field position, which is exactly what happened last week. JMU was responsible for 5 of those turnovers. I expect them to be a little bit better controlling the ball. They had 3 fumbles last week. That's probably going to be fixed over the next week as they get into practice, and then they're coming into this game. I don't see as many turnovers in this game. I see some long drives. We see some, maybe some second and longs, third and longs, where they have to convert some third downs. Barely. We just see that clock continuing to tick, just like Logan's Louisiana, Minnesota game. These are 2 defenses that I do trust, 2 teams that want to run the football. We could see them settling for 3 points. Maybe you get into like a first and goal. We see JMU's rushing defense stack up, make you kick some field goals instead of 7 points. I really like this pick. One of my favorites, probably my favorite on my card. I really like the JMU, South Alabama, taking the under at 49.5. But Logan, what's your third and final pick of the weekend as you're trying to go 3-0?
Yeah, let's go 3-0 this week. A great week to do so. Last pick I'm laying a pretty decent spread with Maryland. I'm taking Maryland -14, -110 odds on DraftKings, currently your best value. Normally, my philosophy in college football, I don't like to lay big spreads, but I just cannot ignore what the mismatch that I believe is going to take place on this field, even in this Big Ten showdown. You got Indiana. They should have lost to Akron. Akron missed a kick in regulation that saved the day. Indiana won in quadruple overtime. Nasty outcome for Indiana. I don't think they should be messing around with a MAC opponent like Akron. And let's talk about Maryland for a little bit. Maryland's redshirt sophomore running back Roman Hemby. He's gonna really strong on the ground game. Their offensive line is strong, and Hemby should be able to run behind them. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry, which is pretty solid. You look at this Maryland offense. Everyone knows Tua's brother, the other Tagovailoa, plays over there. But he's actually more of a game manager. This is a Maryland offense that definitely wants to run the football. They want to be the ground and pound type team. And on the flip side, you look at the Hoosiers. They're allowing 4.7 yards per rushing attempt, 165.5 yards on the ground for the season. So this is a contrast of styles here. We have a team that knows how to run the football, and you have a team on the other side that doesn't really stop the run all that well. I think that's definitely going to benefit Maryland. If you watch enough college football, the offensive line is so key to these games. You control the offensive line, you control up front, and more often than not, you do dominate the game. We look at Indiana, only 282 yards of total offense against Akron. Third down conversion bad, only converted 3 of 14 third downs, 2 turnovers. Meanwhile, Maryland's defense is good. They're second in the nation in turnover margin. So any mistakes that Indiana is going to be making, hopefully Maryland is able to capitalize on that one. We look at last week, Maryland, they confined Michigan State to just 5 of 13 on third down conversion, and they had 5 total turnovers in that game. I like swarming defenses like that. Go out there and be a swarming defense against Indiana, and I think we're standing a really good chance at cashing this bet. We also look at Maryland. They're only allowing 12.3 points per game. They're 12th in the country in points per game allowed. So this is almost a top 10 defense. I think they're going to make life absolutely miserable for Indiana in this one. And then let's talk about with some trends. Let's end this one with some trends. After losing the 2021 Outback Bowl to Ole Miss, Indiana went 6-19 and dropped all 4 games to their Big Ten opponents, Rutgers and Maryland. I think it's going to be 5 to Maryland this week. It's kind of weird. Those opponents in particular just have Indiana's number. And we look at Maryland. They've covered the spread in each of their last 2 games, beating Michigan State 31-9 as road 7-point favorites, and beating Virginia 42-14 as a 16.5-point favorite. So they're no strangers to being able to cover the spread in the favorite role. And I think that's what we get in this one. I think this is a probably 3 touchdown plus game. Maryland can run and hide. They have the offense and the defense to do so. Give me the Maryland Terrapins in a big way in this one. Boston, what's going to be your third and final pick?
Yeah, to wrap it up with a player prop. So all my DFS people out there, the people who are Underdog, Fantasy, PrizePicks, sleepers of the world, this one's for you guys out there, and you can bet it on books too. Some books in some states allow you to bet player props. I don't really know why some states don't have it, but we're 2-0 on college football props. Looking to make it 3-0. We're going to go to the guy on the thumbnail in one of the bigger games that a lot of people are going to be watching, because it's going to be Caleb Williams. I like his over 3.5 passing touchdowns, which is about -130 on the books. But like I said, it's on Sleeper, Underdog, Fantasy, PrizePicks. You can also find it on DraftKings, like I just said, and BetMGM and Bet365. So a bunch of different books. Check if your book allows college football props, because I really like this one. And like I said, it's a big game because we got USC going up against Colorado and Deion Sanders. Now, I think the Colorado hype trains have come a little bit down to earth after they just got smashed by Oregon last week, but this is still going to be a big game, over under 74.5. If you're looking for offense, you're going to find plenty of it in this game, and hopefully Caleb Williams is producing a lot of it, because we need 4 passing touchdowns from him. And look, he's the Heisman front runner, tied with Michael Penix Jr. of Washington, and this is a guy that should have a field day against Colorado. And look at so far through 4 games, Williams, 1,200 yards, 15 passing touchdowns. He's at 4, 5, 3, and 3 passing touchdowns. So has gone under the last 2 games on the hook. He has had 1 and 2 rushing touchdowns these last 2 weeks. He didn't have any rushing touchdowns the first 2 weeks. So maybe if we just don't get those rushing TDs, this is still a guy accounting for 4 and 5 touchdowns basically on a week. And you look at USC's team total set to 48.5. Their team total touchdowns at the 6.5. We just need him to account for 4 of them through the air. And we saw last week, we saw Bo Nix have a field day against them. He didn't get, the 4 passing touchdowns we need here. He actually had 3 and a rushing touchdown. But I just think USC, unlike Oregon, they don't play a lick of defense. Oregon has a lot of talent on the defensive side. USC their plan, hey, we're going to outscore you. We're not playing any defense. Oregon actually had a lot of guys on that defensive side that made plays against the Colorado offense. I think Colorado has a little bit more success scoring the football, so we see a guy like Caleb Williams not only play in the first quarter, second quarter, third, but also the fourth. We've seen him benched in some games. I don't think he gets benched here. I think he plays a full 4. I think he can easily get us 4 passing touchdowns against a weak Colorado Buffalo secondary. So that's my third and final play of the week. Going back to those college football props to see if we can stay undefeated on them. Those are our 6 favorite plays of the day. Let us know your favorite picks down below. Hit that subscribe button if you want to go check out some NFL videos. We'll have those be posted probably by the time Saturday comes around. So we appreciate you guys. I'll link those on the screen, plus some other videos. Logan Nelson signing out. Let's try to get that 6-0 sweep that we had 2 weeks ago. Let's try to do it again this week. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.